All right, hey guys, it's Michael Griswold, and welcome to this interview series, the Unexpert Interview. What I'm doing is making these videos for you because, let's face it, relationships are the most important thing in our lives, right? If we don't have that right, then we're just not happy. And I know that you guys are committed to creating great relationships, and you want some help doing it. So I thought, rather than just talking myself, I'd bring in some of my friends who've gone through the same experiences that you are now. And they could shed some light on what's happening for you, and hopefully, if we do it well, then it'd be beneficial to you. And we're drinking wine because it's delicious. So this is my buddy Carl, and actually Carl and I have known each other for about 4 years now. And ironically, the way that we met was at a coffee shop. We started chatting, and at the time, you were going through a breakup. So what we're going to talk about in this video is some of the common pitfalls of relationships, what makes them break, and then what to do when they are broken so that you can fix them, so that you can have the kind of relationship that you want. So, looking back on, say hi by the way.
Hi.
Looking back on your the relationship with, well, we're gonna use anonymous names just for everyone's sake. Looking back on girl number 1, girl number 2, and girl number 3, what kind of stands out as a common element of why the relationship didn't work?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that stands out is that my mind automatically started thinking about something different when you were beginning that question, but it was definitely a succession. Like, they were very much intertwined, and one subsequently followed the other, whereas, perhaps what I wasn't finding in the first relationship is what I was looking for in the subsequent relationship.
Got it.
And then discovering that maybe that was fulfilled in the subsequent relationship, but something else was missing that I found in the third relationship. And maybe it probably boils down to me really not knowing exactly what I wanted going into it.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And what's really interesting is something that we talk about in the M3 system, which is, if you don't get completion, even if you don't get back with the person that you're wanting to get back with, if you don't complete that relationship, right? If you don't get to end it on your terms, then you end up repeating it, right? It ends up being a kind of a cycle, right? And
Absolutely.
so can you speak about that and what your experience is? I mean, you can talk about the first breakup if you want, and really give these guys a glimpse into what that was like for you, how it felt, why do you think it didn't work, and then kind of go from there.
Well, the first breakup, this was kind of, as I would say, my dolphin girl. And I know that's an esoteric term, but
Dolphin girl?
Dolphin girl. It's it's the one girl that was kind of ethereal, the one girl I couldn't have. And I'd watched this girl and I had interacted with her over the course of a year or so, and created kind of a reality around my imagination and what it would be like, because I would run into her in public places often. We frequented the same places, and then finally I asked her out and she said yes. And so I didn't know what to do when kind of this whole cool world that wasn't real all of a sudden became reality. And it got pretty heavy pretty quick, and it wasn't exactly when the reality wasn't as awesome as I don't want to use the word fantasy because it wasn't a fantasy, but you kind of idealize what you want a relationship to be.
Yeah.
And you kind of observe how a person acts and interacts in public, and I don't maybe it's a little bit of a psychologist mindset, but you kind of attribute personality traits, and they're always the best ones.
Right. Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. But it's never reality. And the relationship wasn't bad, but we just were in different places, and it wasn't quite, we weren't just quite right, but we did a lot of things, both of us, to try to make it work because we really respected each other and really cared for each other. But ultimately, the circumstances weren't right for both of us. And it hadn't been going well for a while.
Yeah.
And there was some collateral involved too.
Sure.
And then, I kind of run into a dolphin girl from years previous, way back from college. And
now it's interesting because, going because you kind of went from this relationship to this one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there was no completion of the first one.
None whatsoever.
And so how did that affect the next relationship and the previous one?
Well, I mean, it was pretty obvious that it affected the next relationship because at one point when I was trying to salvage the next relationship, this girl flat out said to me, I told you I loved you, but you were still in love with girl number one. Point blank. Verbatim, that's what she said.
Now let me just pause here, and first of all, thanks for
There's
being
a lot
here.
loaded in that.
Yeah,
right?
totally. Thanks for doing this, and thanks for being here. This is very helpful for you guys. You know, the thing is notice that here he is with a girl, and I know girl number two. I've met her, and very fun, and I know the connection that they have. Now, here's the thing. They had this great connection, great chemistry, and yet, because there wasn't completion on the first issue, because there wasn't any ability to bring that to a close on your terms, it's still open-ended, and it completely jacks up the next relationship, which, you know, we don't want that to happen for you because life is about relationships. So before we were filming, we were talking a little bit about some of the things that went on. Every girl that you've been in relationship with said one thing to you. And what was that?
Almost, yeah, pretty verbatim, and in a very impassioned circumstance. I want somebody who will take care of me, implying that the relationship that we had was me not taking care, and it wasn't taking care of them as in loving them. It was being a financial and emotional provider.
Yeah. Financial
first, probably.
Well, probably emotional being very, very important. And, you know, see here how this trend reoccurs, right? And so instead of having completion and having control of the relationship, there's these lingering effects. And then, you know, a woman feels distance, feels like it's not very safe. Now, when you and girl number one broke up, can you remember what that was like?
Yeah.
How was it?
You know, I was a mess for a while. I mean, I did the breaking up, and it was you know, it was really not even planned necessarily. And like I said, there was some collateral in a lot of different ways, but I was a mess for quite a while. And I think, you know, regardless if a relationship is good or bad, I mean, there's some void that's created when you exit that relationship. And I think in a lot of ways the sadness comes from not having done it better. You might not know, like, I don't even necessarily think I miss that person. I miss not having done that relationship better. I kind of take it personally. Why didn't this work? What did I fail? How did I fail? And that's kind of a bad place to go, because you start cycling through things that you feel like you've failed at, and I mean, it's kind of self-fulfilling prophecy if you're not careful. Because then, if you know, thoughts are like water, you know, they'll kind of trickle down and they'll go anywhere, and pretty soon you lose track of it and you're in a dark place.
Yeah.
And that definitely spilled over, that flooded over into the next relationship.
Yeah. And so, in the next relationship, what do you think was the cause of that not working out?
Man, there were several causes, but I was absolutely afraid to commit. And I also considerably was looking for traits in this person that I disliked in the relationship, that I didn't feel good about in the relationship before. So I mean, it wasn't unique, it wasn't genuine, and regardless of how physically, you know, attracted we were, how much chemistry there was there, she sensed that right away. I mean, she knew that. And the physical attraction kept us together longer than it should have.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, that so often in relationships we pick up on things even if we can't articulate them. You know, so
sure.
You know, if things are off, if you're not complete with what's going on, if you're being disingenuous, if you're being inauthentic, then people are going to pick up on that. And that's why you'll never hear me give like cheesy pickup lines or, you know, say this as a trick, because, you know, that even if it does work briefly, there's a cost to that, right? There's a cost when the biggest cost is having legitimate intimacy. And so, as you guys are listening to Carl's story, think about in your interaction with your ex and, in what ways are you being inauthentic? Because it's that more than anything that's going to keep the distance and keep you from being able to create an authentic relationship.
Yeah, can I absolutely, and having listened to you say that, and you asked what about those relationships didn't, what kind of contributed to their not working out. Man, inauthenticity is huge, and I can only say that of myself. As I mentioned with relationship one, I created kind of this reality, and it's reality that I want to manifest, and a lot of that for me is to become a better person, because I want that reality to be awesome, and I want to be the best Carl that I can be within that reality and that relationship, right? But then when the reality of the relationship comes in, it's hard to not make certain assumptions about who I need to be and what I need to provide in order to make that, come to life.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in relationship number two, they're having had an infatuation with this person, and a shared infatuation with, so this is a college,
Right.
So not only me, but all of the dudes that I would hang out with. So I'm cool,
Sure.
Look,
Yeah.
look what but also just noting the particular circumstances of this person, how much of a transition they were in. I was a little removed from wanting to get involved with that transition, which made me very distant and made her more distant. But then also, just kind of the one big pitfall was making assumptions about what that person was going to find attractive in me. And then wanting to be, thinking that I needed to have accomplished X. Because, she may say, I hung out with this really cool doctor, and then all of a sudden, like, well, I'm not a doctor.
Right.
I need to be. If she thinks doctors are cool and I'm not a doctor, I'm toast.
Right.
That's a big generalization, but it kind of, it highlights that, certain assumptions that, being inauthentic to myself, thinking that I needed to be something that she wanted rather than what I wanted, and I'm the only,
Yeah, and this is a great distinction for you guys, because here's what happens, right? And I know because I've been through it, Carl's been through it, we know what this is like. What happens is you go through a breakup, or there's distance, and you think, what do they want me to be? What do they want me to be like, right? And so you project all of these insecurities of your own onto your ex, and then begin to try to be all these things that you aren't, and that really robs you of power. And I'm really glad you brought that up, because it's something that I remember doing myself when I got dumped. The guy that girl ended up dating next was a musician, right? Played guitar, very whatever. Like, he's cool. I mean, but I'm not a musician. But I was thinking, I should take guitar lessons. I should
Right.
I should learn to write songs. And that's just not who I am. And it makes you know the difference between somebody who is legit, somebody who is comfortable in their own skin, and somebody who isn't. So the action for you as you're watching this is, do not fall into that trap. Don't fall into the pit of trying to be someone else, because it just won't work. And you'll feel kind of bad about yourself for doing it.
That's a pretty hollow feeling.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
And it ultimately didn't work. I mean, she, didn't respect that, because the thing that she was attracted to about you was you. It wasn't you being a doctor. It was you being Carl, right?
Right.
And so the more you try to not be Carl, the more it doesn't work.
Incredibly.
Now, there was a third girl. What
in the succession.
Yeah.
I mean, right in that succession, absolutely.
Okay.
And again, it was that relationship. The foundation was really built conceptually for me in retrospect on the previous two, and I hadn't taken time to really process, digest, and determine what I want. Well, who I am. and really what I want, and be honest about myself with that. And part of it is, I think it takes a little bit of time just to decompress from the previous relationship, to have some emotional distance. So the more logical side of the brain has a chance to step in and say, whoa, 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 this, here, and this, and, just organize and compartmentalize a little bit. But I jumped into this next relationship, without, complete abandon. And I was getting out of that what I failed to get out of the relationship before, which was absolute commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And it allowed me to be very irreverent and have a lot of control in the relationship. But ultimately that wasn't satisfying.
Yeah.
Because I don't want somebody that, will do anything and everything and, not have voice and presence. And
so you pretty much dominated that relationship.
Yeah.
And that didn't work out so well.
No. Maybe it was a little bit of a role reversal, or what I thought was a role reversal, because I kind of allowed myself perhaps to feel less than completely in control in the previous two relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, I got that from our conversations. You kind of, I could sense that from you.
Yeah. And in large part because I got into those relationships out of infatuation and in haste. Mm-hmm. And man, I tend to move too fast.
If going 50 is good, then going 120 is better.
Yes.
No, I get it. Well, for the benefit of the people that are going through, and if you can for a moment get in touch with that emotion, that feeling of loss and that feeling of desperation, what can you say for these guys as a bit of advice that will help them to navigate through these troubled waters and to be able to create a relationship that's more satisfying? From the experiences that you've had, what kind of nugget can you come away with that would help them?
Wow.
You think about it, and I'm going to address everybody. This is all just off the cuff, by the way. There's no scripting here, so I'm totally putting Carl on the spot, which is kind of a asshole thing to do, but I'm doing it for you, so hopefully you'll get something out of it.
And I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't know you otherwise.
Exactly.
So to summarize something that I've learned that would, in all of this.
Yeah, think back to, when you're like in the throes of it, and, the rejection and the sadness and the loss, and, what can be beneficial so that these guys can have hope of creating something better. We don't want them to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's my job to help you create something better, something that is actually pleasing, satisfying, and fulfilling.
That's a good question, and a lot of thoughts come to mind. And, one thing that I will say is I've been a little over a year without being in any sort of relationship at all. And the emotions have changed, but they haven't gone away. Mm-hmm. And, they kind of go day by day, but what I am doing is learning to control them a little bit better, mm-hmm. and understanding that outside circumstances are going to fluctuate, and they, without being cliche, there are things that I can't control, that I just cannot control. Try as hard as I may, there are things that I can't control, but I can always control what my reaction is, mm-hmm. and I pinpoint really early on. When these dynamic things happen, how I react and focus on a positive track, and that's mm-hmm. That's even outside of just relationships.
Yeah.
But when it's a new season like it is now, and the summer's changing, and I have a lot of memories that have been filtered and processed of this year last time when I was incredibly sad. Mm-hmm. There's all of these associations and memories of my most recent relationship, and I really think you don't move on until you've had a relationship that's different and better and more powerful or perhaps worse than the previous one. Hopefully not. Hopefully not worse.
Right.
That's the goal. But ultimately, I think understanding that no matter what, it's emotion is an ingredient, and it's a variable that is always changing, and you're always going to have it, and you're never going to master it. So learning how to be present in this moment, to not create realities before they happen, and to not reprocess and overanalyze what's happened in the past, but focus on what is happening now and what your reaction and adaptation is to that, and also how am I contributing to me?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm doing that, then it cannot help but contribute to the people around me.
Totally.
And that's going to help. I feel like that's going to help me best find somebody where there's a symbiosis there, and we can really feed off each other and grow together, which is something that I haven't accomplished.
So this is fantastic. The takeaway is, there's a lot of things that you're not able to control, and there's one thing that you can, and that is you. So I'm going to invite you to try on the possibility that you, in this moment, as you're going through this difficult time, have an opportunity to create something that you're actually be satisfied with. And really, that's what I am here to help you do. And I've put together a system that helps you do it. The M3 system is, my own story of how I lost the girl that I loved and got her back, and how you can do the same. And it's really more than just getting back with an ex. It's creating the relationship that you want. Now, you can, Carl is a little hard-headed, which is awesome, and you can continue to make the same mistakes, or you can choose now to create something that a year from now you'll look back and think, man, I'm glad I did that. So if that resonates with you, if it's something that you want to create for yourself, then go ahead and click on the link below, and you'll be able to get started today. In the M3 system, there's every aspect of relationships is covered, including conflict resolution, how to be persuasive, how to create forgiveness, and how to create a relationship where there isn't one now. So go ahead and click on the link now so that you can get started, and you can look back and think of this interview as being the moment that changed everything. So if you don't want to, no problem, no hard sell, just I'm inviting you to create something that you might be happy with. And thanks for coming by. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for the interview, and thanks for really helping these guys who are going through one of the most difficult things that they'll go through.
Thanks for listening, guys.